Hello everyone, how are you doing today? Sunday. We hope you've had a good day and I hope you've been really good. So tonight's story is from Animal Stories and it's called The Cow That Lost Her Moo. So if you're sitting comfortably, Nana will begin. There was once a pretty cow called Buttercup. Everyone was very fond of her, for she was a gentle creature, though rather stupid. She lived in a big field with 12 other cows, and she was the prettiest of the lot. One day she caught a cold, and she lost her voice. She tried her hardest to moo loudly, just as she had always done, but it wasn't any good at all. Not the tiniest bit of moo came out of her big mouth. Buttercup had no voice except a small whisper that sounded rather like dry leaves rustling together. "This will never do," said Buttercup to herself with great fright. "I must get some sort of voice. I can't go about whispering. Even the ducks on the pond over there have a louder voice than I have. If I can't moo, perhaps I could learn to quack." So that night, when the little folk came running out of the fields, Buttercup whispered to one of them, "Pinkety, I've lost my lovely moo. Could you get me another one, do you think? Or at any rate, could you get me some sort of voice? I hate talking in a whisper like this. It's so stupid for a large cow like me to have such a tiny whispery voice." Pinkety looked at the large cow and grinned all over his cheeky little face. "I can't get you a moo," he said, "but I could get you a quack, if you like. I know those ducks could spare one if I asked them." Buttercup nodded her head off. Off went Pinkety, spoke to the ducks, came back with something wrapped in a dock leaf. "Here you are," he said to the grateful cow. "Swallow this and you'll find you have a fine new voice." So Buttercup swallowed the dock leaf with the quack spell inside and at once found she could quack. You should have heard her. Really, it was funny to hear a big cow quacking away for all she was worth. Her friends came round her in surprise. "Why do you quack?" they asked. "You're very foolish, Buttercup. The farmer will think you're a duck and he will put you on the pond to swim with the others. You'll have to lay eggs for him." "Quack, quack," cried Buttercup in great fright. "I couldn't lay an egg. I know I couldn't, and I should die of fear if I had to swim in the pond. Pinkety, where are you? Quack, quack, quack. Take away this quack and bring me another voice. I can't bear it." Pinkety hopped up. He was very much enjoying himself. He caught a loud quack as Buttercup spoke, wrapped it up in another dock leaf, and he put it into his pocket and hurried off. He went to a brown mouse for a little squeak. She gave it him, wrapped up in a daisy leaf, for it was very small. He ran back to Buttercup and gave it to her. She swallowed it, and then began to squeak in a very high voice, just like a mouse. All the other cows began to moo with laughter. "Buttercup, how foolish are you?" they said. "Now you have a voice like a mouse. The weasel will come along when he hears you, and he'll try and bite you, thinking you're a mouse. And the big owl will swoop down on you." "Twit, twoo, twoo," called the owl in distance. Buttercup began to tremble. She was in great fright. "Pinkety, Pinkety," she squeaked, "come here. Take away this squeak, I beg you, and bring me a better voice. I can't bear this squeak, squeak, squeak." Pinkety took away the squeak and ran off again, beaming. This was a great joke. What a tale to tell when he went home in the morning. This time he went to a sheep lying down in the hillside. He asked if he could lend her bar. She did so, and he carried it off wrapped in 2 nettle leaves. Buttercup swallowed it gratefully and at once began to bar and bleat in most sheep-like manner. All her friends stared at her in amazement. Whatever would she do next? "Buttercup, you're turning into a sheep?" asked Daisy, the pretty white cow. "No," said Buttercup, "of course not. I'm a cow. Bah, bah." "Well, the farmer will be sure to think you're a sheep if you bar like that," said Daisy. "He will expect you to grow wool for him, and he'll clip your coat as he does those sheep. My, you will be cold with your coat clipped away." Buttercup was horrified. What? Have a nice hairy coat clipped away so that she might grow a thick covering of wool? Never! Bah, 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 she bleated to Pinkety. "Oh, do take this voice away quickly. I can't bear it. Bah!" Pinkety hopped up and took it away. He gave it back to the surprised sheep and then hunted around for someone else who might lend him a voice. He met Bobby the dog, out rabbiting for himself in the moonlight, and he called to him. "Hey, Bobby, will you lend me your bark for a little while?" "No," said Bobby. "I want it." "Now listen, Bobby," said Pinkerty. "I'll show you the best rabbit hole in the field if you lend me your bark for a time." "Please do. I'm having such fun with this foolish cow. I've made her quack, squeak, bar, and now I want to make her bark." "Well, mine's a very fierce sort of bark," said Bobby. "She will frighten all the other cows if they hear it. So I warn you, Pinkerty, you better not borrow it." But Pinkerty said yes, he really must have it. So Bobby gave it to him, wrapped up in a piece of paper he found in the ditch. Off went Pinkerty over the fields to Buttercup. "Here you are," he said, giving her a bark in the piece of paper. She ate it up, paper and all. And then, stars and moon, she began to bark like a fierce dog. Woof, woof, grrr, woof, 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 grrr. There had been a growl mixed up in the bark, so Buttercup growled as well as barked. The other cows, who all disliked fierce dogs, were terrified almost out of their lives. They rushed off to the other end of the field in fright. As for Buttercup, she was terribly frightened too. She hated dogs, and this bark and growl had made her very much afraid. She galloped away and trod so heavily on Pinkerty's toes that he yelled with pain. He limped off crying, big tears down his cheeky little face, and went home to bathe his poor foot. So when Buttercup went to find him to beg him to take a bark away, he was nowhere to be seen. No, he was safely home tying up his poor squash toes with a bandage, wishing very much he hadn't played silly tricks on foolish Buttercup. Buttercup barked all through the night and growled when she wasn't barking. Her friends were so frightened of her that they wouldn't let her come near. "If you come anywhere near, we will run our horns into you," they cried. "You are turning into a dog, there's no doubt. You'll have to live in a kennel and eat biscuits and bones instead of sweet grass." Buttercup was very unhappy. She went away in the corner and barked all to herself. "Why did I bother about my voice?" she said sadly. "I'd rather have no moo than a bark like a dog. This is dreadful. What will the farmer say when he milks me?" The farmer was scared and puzzled when he heard Buttercup's new voice. He stared at her as if he couldn't believe his ears. A cow barking? What next? "Woof, woof," said Buttercup, hanging her head in shame. "Woof, grrr." "I shall have to sell you, Buttercup," said the farmer, seeing how frightened of her all the other cows seemed to be. "I can't have a barking cow." "Woof, grrr," said Buttercup almost unhappily. She couldn't bear the thought of being sold. It would be dreadful to leave the field she knew and go somewhere strange. All that day she barked and growled, and when night came she looked anxiously for Pinkerty. That rascally little creature had been feeling sorry that he had played such tricks on Buttercup. His toes were very painful, and he thought it must be punishment for him. "I'd better go out and see how Buttercup is tonight," he thought to himself. "Even though I can hardly walk, I certainly must go." So out he went into the field. No sooner had he gone through the gate when he almost jumped out of his skin. He heard what seemed to be a very fierce dog barking and growling just above him. Of course it was Buttercup waiting for him. What a fright he got. "Woof, woof, grrr," said Buttercup. "Do pray take this terrible voice away, Pinkerty. Woof! I frighten everyone and myself too. I'd rather have no voice at all. It was foolish of me to want one." Pinkerty took the bark and growl away and wrapped them carefully in his handkerchief. Then he limped off to find Bobby, who he was sure would be wanting his bark badly. So he was, and he was very angry indeed about it. "You said you only wanted my bark for a little while," he scolded. "Here I've had to be all day without either bark or growl, and I couldn't even bark at an old tramp who came and stole some eggs. So I got a beating for not doing my duty. Give me my bark at once." Pinkerty gave it to him and then forgot all about his bad foot. For angry old Bobby chased him up the lane and over the fields, barking at the top of his voice. "Woof, you mischievous creature, grrr! You scamp, you rogue, woof, grrr, grrr!" Buttercup was very thankful indeed to have lost her bark. She ate grass quietly, and when her friends saw she no longer barked or growled, they came round her once again and talked to her. And suddenly she found herself mooing to them. Yes, her cold had gone away, and she had got her own voice back once more. She had gone only a little while whilst she had a cold, so she needn't have worried herself so much after all. "To think I had a quack, a squeak, a bar, a bark, and a growl," said Buttercup to herself in shame, "when all the time If only I'd been patient, my own voice was just waiting to come back. Really, I'm a very foolish cow. I do hope the farmer won't sell me now. He didn't, of course. When he found that Buttercup was herself again, and mooed just the way she always had, he patted her and said, well, I can't think what happened to you yesterday, Buttercup, but you seem all right today. So, as you give me a nice lot of creamy milk, I shan't sell you. Moo, 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 said Buttercup, and whisked her tail happily. Then she whisked it again and knocked off the farmer's hat. But he didn't seem to mind. Wow, can you imagine what that sounded like? A cow sounding like a sheep, and a mouse and a dog. Wow, that would have been really silly in a field, wouldn't it? So that was the cow that lost her moo. But she didn't lose it for very long, did she? Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I love you loads and sleep well. So, night-night, Atty. I love you. Night-night, Torby Tumble. I love you. Night-night, Ruby. Love you. And night-night, Max. Love you. Sleep well. I'll see you tomorrow.